Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. If you follow my channel, you know that I love Indian motorcycles. Topic for today's video is the new 125th anniversary Elite models that Indian just released in the last couple of days. So I'm going to give you my first impressions, and I also want to know what your first impressions are. You know, what do you think about the paint job and so on. So I was a little surprised when Indian dropped their 2025 models that I didn't see really any 125th anniversary badging on the bikes. I know people are going to say, well, Indian was dormant for many years, and that's true, but Indian started 125 years ago. So this is at least in part a celebration of when the brand began, and that was 125 years ago. So again, I was a little surprised. I didn't see any badging, but now they just dropped 4 Elite models that are covered with 125th anniversary branding on the bike. So I want to talk about each one of them briefly and give you my first impressions, but I want to know what you think as well. I want to start with the Scout Bobber. Now all 4 are in red and black, which are great colors. And that black, if that's the same black I've already seen on some of the 2025 models, it is amazing. And the red looks really good. It's a great color combination. So starting out with the Scouts, to be honest, I've never ridden a Scout. We do have a demo truck that's going to be at both of the 2 closest dealerships to my house this spring. I want to say maybe one in April and the other one in May. I definitely want to go to the demo days, and I need to ride a Scout just because I've never ridden one. I hear they're great bikes, but they look really, really good. Now, one thing people have pointed out is that even the pinstriping on these bikes, if you get down and look really close, it says 125th anniversary, which is pretty cool. And they have the 125th, like I say, badging on the bike. Beautiful color. I really like the dark red and black. And the Scouts are the best-selling model, from what I understand, that Indian has. So they're going to make 450 of the Scout Bobber 125th edition bikes worldwide, and they're going to be numbered, which really, to me, adds to the collectability of it. You know, you may have number 51 out of 450, but that's the number, and I'm eager to see it in person. Let's see. Let's go next to, we'll go up in size. I'm looking down at my computer. I'm technologically challenged, or I'd be able to show you what I'm looking at. I will try to drop in some pictures of these bikes as we make our way through the video, but I certainly encourage you to go on the website, look at the bikes. So then you go to the vintage. This is a new model they brought back out. This is, I would call, the newest generation. It is somewhat different than the previous generation Indian Chief Vintage. This one's built on the new Chief platform as opposed to the previous generation Chief platform. So it's 2-tone, same thing, red and black with the pinstriping, with the badging. Looks really good in this color, because so far the vintages that they've released, you know, you had 2 color options. You have red or the black. And so there's going to be 250 of these made. And I forgot to mention the price. Let me go back to the Bobber. The Bobber is going to come in at $17,499. And then this vintage is coming in at $24,999. So the black one, I think, is $19,999. I think it's about $500 more for the red. So this is about, I don't know, $4,500 more to actually get the anniversary edition. But I do think these bikes are going to be collector's items. This one is absolutely gorgeous. I love the red, the color combination. I'm going to skip over. I was going to go in size / production numbers and price. Well, I guess I will. I'll go on to the Challenger next. The Challenger is going to come in at $41,999. Now, last year, when they released the Challenger Elite, I thought that's the prettiest Challenger I've ever seen. I'll try to drop a picture in now. because it is absolutely gorgeous. It was red and white, beautiful. Now it was $39,999, where this one's $41,999. So it's a couple of $1,000s more. But as I said, I thought last year's was the best looking Challenger I've ever seen. But I don't know, this 26 model, it's red and black. I'm eager to see it in person, but I may like it better than the red and white. But so the same thing, it's got the pinstripe with the 125th anniversary written in the pinstripe. These are all hand painted. These are not done by robots. Obviously, the larger the bike, the more hours they had to spend painting these bikes. And of course, this one comes with all the new safety features, blind spot monitoring and all those things. And you can adjust the suspension electronically from the dash. And I can tell you, after owning a long list of Harley Davidsons, one way that Indian blows Harley Davidson out of the water is suspension. If you like to ride hundreds of miles in a day, you cannot beat the suspension right out of the crate with Indian. And of course, Indian also has more features, more overall comfort, strong performance. My experience, they have been really reliable. So you've got the Challenger. They're going to make 250 of the Challengers, 450 Scout Bobbers, 250 Vintages, 250 Challengers. So they're expecting that Vintage to sell as well as the Challenger. Well, I know the Challenger is a really good selling bike. A lot of our IMRG meetings, we now have more Challengers, more Power Plus motors than we do Thunderstroke motors. And again, it's absolutely gorgeous. I just love that red and black. I'm a little partial to red, but red is such a historic color with the Indian brand. That's just it. It's a beautiful bike. Now, let me go to the Roadmaster. They're going to make 100 of these worldwide. I would have done 125. It's the 125th anniversary. I would have made at least 125. There's 25 more bikes globally. I don't think I have any trouble selling these bikes. Now, there are different variations on the Indian Roadmaster. If you follow Indian, you know that the Indian Roadmaster comes with 2 motors, 3 different fork-mounted fairings. There's the original fork-mounted fairing that looks kind of like a 1950s freight train. There's the fairing like I have on mine. And then the new Power Plus Roadmaster has even a different fork-mounted fairing that has styling cues from the Challenger. So you may have, I'm sure you've probably already seen the photos, but if you haven't, it's the original Batwing fairing that Indian came out with in 2014 on their Chieftains, and then a year later on the Roadmaster. So it's that original freight train looking fairing with the full swooping fender, the Thunderstroke motor. So it's that a traditional look, with the exception of, you know, that versus, say, the Roadmaster. My first Roadmaster was an 18 model. Body-wise, it looked like this one, but this one has the custom wheels, the low-profile tire, where mine had the big fat tire, which I, of course, had to put white walls on my Roadmaster. Maybe I'll drop in a picture of my first Roadmaster with the white wall tires, but one thing I've discovered was the lower profile tire and the narrower tire. I would have thought the fat tire would have been better on the road, but I really like this more low profile tire because it just seems more nimble in the curves. Yes, these big 800, 900 pound motorcycles can scoot through the curves. If you've seen King of the Baggers, of course I know those are hopped up racing bikes, but even if these bikes right out of the crate perform extremely well. So I think this Roadmaster is really attractive. Now, I've gotten accustomed to the fixed mounted fairing that I have that came out, I want to say 2000, maybe 19 or so on the Chieftain. It's more of a traditional looking fairing, but this looks really good. And then the price on this, I don't remember if I said, it is $43,999. So all of these have increased price because they're the top of the line, and it's a ridiculous number of hours to paint this Roadmaster. I said I probably could scroll through here and find, you can look at the website, I want to say like 30 something hours, maybe more, because they're hand painting every piece of this thing. And with the trunk and the lower fairings, you know, it's got even more panels to paint, certainly far more than the Scout, but even more than the Challenger. So I think Indian did a really, really good job with these elite models. And one thing I was really impressed with, there are 4 elite models: Scout Bobber, the Chief Vintage, the Challenger, and the Roadmaster. And one thing I like is the fact that 2 of the 4 have the full sweeping traditional fenders, both the Vintage and the Roadmaster. So you can tell they're leaning back in to their vintage heritage. Now, I would say, you know, they shouldn't do away with the modern Power Plus, Challengers, Roadmasters, and Chieftains, and that motor I hear is great on the Scout. You know, they need to be moving forward and advancing. I think that was a wise move. Indian's not bound to the tradition, but I think leaning into some of that tradition is important, because I was thrilled to see the Vintage come back. I've said all along that for many of us, the Vintage was the eye candy that pulled us into the Indian dealership, that got us off Harley Davidsons onto Indian motorcycles. And again, I love Harley Davidsons too, but the Indian brand is I think pretty much in every way, especially right out of the crate, is a superior product for me, at least in my experience, because I've owned a slew of Harley Davidsons and I've owned 4 Indians, so I've spent lots of miles on both brands. And again, I'm not bashing Harley, but these Indians are absolutely gorgeous. I am eager to see them in person. I watched Riding Fish's video. He's one of my favorite Indian motorcycle YouTubers. He's also an Indian motorcycle ambassador. I believe he has seen these in person, at least the Challenger. I can't remember if he saw all of them in person, but he's seen the Challenger. And he said the photos do not do the paint justice. You know, I think all of us really need to see them in person. Of course, these may get gobbled up really fast. I'm thinking if you want one, you probably want to go to your local dealership, see if you can put down a deposit and order one. And again, I think they're cool that they're numbered editions. So I'm still looking at the Roadmaster, which the full-on touring bike is my preferred means of transportation. It does have the armrest. I think they should have put a driver's backrest on it as well. This is the elite model. You know, that one extra little feature would have certainly came in handy, but it's gorgeous. Even the push rod tubes are painted red, so it's, you know, it's red and black. The Vintage is red and black, and the way they painted the motor on that Vintage really gave it the old school traditional look with the tractor seat. Of course, the Scout Bobber, great looking bike, and I think in its market it may be the best selling bike of any brand in its market, because it really, I like the 2-into-1 exhaust on the Scout Bobber. The look of the motor is very modern and clean and nice looking. And the Challenger, I mean, I'm a Roadmaster Thunderstroke kind of guy, but every year that Challenger grows on me more and more and more. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but at some point, if I get ready to buy another motorcycle, I might go with the Challenger / Pursuit. They're really good looking bikes, and they do perform really well. I'm partial to the Thunderstroke motor, but the Power Plus motor, you know, feels like it's got more power. Certainly it has more horsepower and more torque than my Thunderstroke. But I think Indian did a great job with these models. Tell me in the comments what you think. Of course, for many of us, these are out of our price range. You know, it's hard for me to imagine. Of course, the first one, the Scout Bobber. So Scout Bobber, $17,499. Chief Vintage, $24,999. Then you jump up to $41,999 and then $43,999. For me, it's just hard to imagine giving more than $30,000 for a motorcycle. So for me, those last two would be I remember the first time I gave over $20,000 for a motorcycle. But you know, you can still buy a new Scout for under $10,000. A brand new motorcycle. Sometimes people hear us talking about the price of these big touring bikes and they assume all of the Indians are terribly expensive, or all the Harleys for that matter, and that's not the case. You can still buy a brand new Indian motorcycle for under $10,000. I think you can buy the new Harley Nightster too for under $10,000. Between the two, I'd go with the Indian. Anyway, I don't want to sound like I'm bashing Harley Davidson, because who knows, 6 months later I may buy another Harley Davidson, because I love both brands. But I really like what Indian's doing. I'm excited about their new CEO. I've seen him on numerous podcasts. I recently saw him do a long interview on throttle and iron. You can go back and watch the full interview. He's a real motorcycle guy. I think he really has a great vision for the Indian brand. I think the Indian brand has a bright future. And again, tell me what you think about these new elite models. I was going to say if I won the lottery, I don't ever buy a lottery ticket. I guess if I won the lottery, I'd buy one of these elite models. I'd have a hard time picking. I already have a Roadmaster, so I'd probably go either between the Challenger or the Vintage, because I think the Vintages are beautiful, and I really like the Challenge. So what would you buy? If you were going to actually buy one of these elite models, which one would it be and why? And so if you like the content on my channel, be sure and like and subscribe. I really enjoy doing these videos because I'm very passionate about motorcycles, and particularly Indian motorcycles. So I enjoy putting out the content. And if you enjoy the content, like and subscribe, hit the little bell icon, and you'll be notified when I post another video. And as I often say at the end of my videos, maybe partly because of my age, but if you like to ride as much as you can, because one day we're all going to be too old to ride.